Welcome, friends. Today we are going to get into the practical side of the Krishnamurti Paddhati by taking a horoscope with some of the usual questions. The usual questions are: can I go abroad, about my job, or are there going to be any issues or problems in my job, marriage or no marriage, accident? These are the usual questions. When somebody comes to you, these are some of the usual questions. So today we are going to discuss this in the light of a horoscope. These are the birth particulars that I've already given over here, and if you want to uh, use this to create a chart using whatever software you're using, and so let's go point by point on these topics, all these various topics around a horoscope. Now, one of the questions that would usually come to you as an astrologer is whether I can go abroad or not. That's the usual one of the question. Now, in Krishnamurti Paddhati, the combination or the grouping of the houses is 3, 9, and 12. Now, this particular person, the moment the Rahu Dasha started, he migrated to US and started working there in various corporations. So let's try to analyze the his Rahu period from that particular angle. Two angles. One is the going abroad, and second is the purpose of going abroad. So the let's look at the combination 3, 9, and 12. Now, if you look at Rahu, you find that Rahu the Rahu indicates these combinations. The repeatedly it indicates the combination 3, 9, 12, 3, 9, 12, and then at the sublord level it's supported by the third house. Third house is being 12th to the fourth house. Fourth house means your native birthplace, or where you are or where you were currently, and the third house is the 12th to the fourth house. So it indicates one going away from the his native place. So in this chart, you can clearly see that this particular combination, the 3 9 12 3 9 12 3 is and 3 is very strong. So it can be easily predicted that this person will go abroad. Now here what happens is one of the questions that or one of the confusions or problems that you will run into is that what is abroad. In one of my videos, I did point this particular issue, that what do you mean by abroad? Suppose if somebody is living in Kerala, the south tip of India, and he or she is able to find a job in Sri Lanka. Now, Sri Lanka might be just 100 miles away from the Kerala, but it's still a different country. So going abroad is a very kind of a vague question. The same person who is living in Kerala, if that person migrates to, let's say, Kashmir, which might be 1,000 miles, so that's a very long distance. And then, like in the Krishnamurti Paddhati, the 12th house is meant for living in a secluded or foreign place with a different culture or language. So that's applicable to somebody who is migrating from Kerala to Kashmir, because the language is different, the people are different, the whole environment is different, but still it's a part of the same country. So this is a very vague and difficult, question to answer. But usually, generally, 392. If somebody asks that can I go abroad or not, and if you find this kind of a combination, 3 9 12 3 9 12 being supported by the sublord, then I think you can safely, say, yeah, you have a good chance of going abroad. So this is what happened with this gentleman, that the moment his Rahu Dasha started, he found himself in US and started working for a corporation. Now the thing is, like I mentioned, what was the purpose of going abroad? If you look at this combination, you find the 10th house appearing both at the planet and the star lord level, and the sixth house appearing at the sublord level. So the combination for the career or a job is 2, 6, 10, 11. So you find a sixth and the 10th house in this particular combination against Rahu. So you know that, or you can predict that, okay, this person has a good chance of going abroad, and the purpose of going abroad would be to get a job or to work in some company over there. And this is what happened, with this person. See, the purpose could be going abroad and doing a PhD or getting, admission into some college. So that's a different combination. But for job and all that, we know that the combination is 2, 6, 10, 11 and all that. So in the Rahu period, it's pretty much clear that this person will be changing his native place, moving from away from his native place, going to some distant place, and working over there. So during the Rahu period, this is what happened with this person. And since you have this combination of the 10th house, and the sixth house, so this is a very good combination in terms of earning money and doing a decent job. And so this is what happened with this gentleman. So he got into a consulting job. A lot of traveling was involved, that we can see from the even when he was in US, a lot of traveling was involved. So we can see from this particular combination. And at the same time, because of the 10th and the 6th handshaking between the star lord and the sub lord, he found himself in a pretty decent job where the rates were good, and he was able to make good money. So that is this person going abroad during the Rahu period. Now the nature of job. When he was in US, and this is one of the typical questions that you will get, what kind of job I should be doing. And this is another very tough the thing to tackle, because there are more than 50, 60, 70,000 of various kind of professions if you drill down, and the list is endless. So it's very difficult for an astrologer to predict exactly that what kind of a job this person would be doing. But I am going to share some experience, some of my own experience, about finding the nature of profession. If you look at these significators over here, so especially the significators that are combined with the 10th house, you will invariably find that the third house, the third house joins hands with the 10th house. So it's a lot of typical proliferation of the third house joining hands with the 10th house. So we know that the third house is playing a very important role in joining hands with the 10th house. And the third house itself indicates a lot of things. It indicates communication, it indicates writing, journalism, publication, a sales representative, consulting, and lot many other things. So, but since now you see that there is a lot of abundance of the third house joining hands with the 10th house, and on top of it, one of the very important point that I have mentioned and you will not find in any books is the position of moon. The moon is also in the third house. You don't have to see moon in the Chalit chart. You have to look at the moon in the Lagna chart. In the Lagna chart of this gentleman, the moon is still in the third house. So wherever the moon is, if moon is in the third house or moon is in the second house, depending on where the moon is, it usually indicates the mental framework or the inclination of that particular person in that particular area. Third house, we know, is for communication, correspondence, and consulting. It's more like a mental activity, because the third house relates to the third natural zodiac sign, which is a Gemini. So in a way, this the third house relates to whatever profession in general. the Gemini sign or the Mithun sign represents. So this person got into a consulting job. I typically, the IT consulting job, and then he was traveling from one place to another place, and this Rahu period was good for him. And despite all these hassle of traveling from one place to another place and living a life out of suitcase. So that's about the nature of job. Now let's look into the marriage. When this guy entered into the Rahu Dasha, that was the period, typical period of marriageable age when the people, you tend to get married. Let's look into the the whole Rahu period. Let's quickly look into. See, Rahu Mahadasha was up to 2006, and after that there was a Jupiter Dasha up to 2022. So this was a period, the up to 2006. That was a usually period for somebody to get married. Now in Krishnamurti Paddhati, the combination for marriage is 2711, and the denial of marriage is 1, 6, and 10. Why 1, 6, and 10? I hope most of you already know, because the first house is the 12th house of negation for second. Sixth house is the house of negation for seventh, because it is 12th from seventh, and 10th house is the house of negation from the 11th. So 2, 7, 11 gives marriage. 1, 6, and 10 indicates denial of marriage. And if both the combinations are present, then both things happen. They will not cancel each other. Both things will happen. Marriage will also happen, and divorce or separation or married life not being happy, those kind of things will happen. Now if you look at the Rahu period when he was in the marriageable age, you find that this particular combination 2, 7, 11 is not particularly pronounced. It's not loud and clear in this combination. You don't see 2 or 11. It's only 7 appearing over here. This is just a kind of a lone 7, a single seventh house, without getting any support from the star lord or the planet's lordship. So this is a very weak combination. And on the other hand, if you look at the denial of the houses 1, 6, and 10, then you find that 10 is here, 10 is here, and 6 is here. So you see, compared to the positive combination for marriage, the negative combination of marriage are very loud and clear. And this is what happened during the whole Rahu Dasha. This person couldn't, marry. And even if you look into the Jupiter Dasha, now he's late into his life, and he will, in a few years, will be entering into the Saturn Dasha. By that time, I guess he will be 60 years old. And even if you look at the Jupiter period, then also you don't see any combination that are very vocal or kind of announcing about a marriage. And on the other hand, if you look at these combination like 1 and 6, they are there. But 2, 7, 11 is still absent in the Jupiter significance. So after the Rahu Dasha has already ended. The Jupiter Dasha is also not very promising. So he couldn't marry in the Jupiter Dasha also. There are few years left for Jupiter Dasha, and but since the Mahadasha is not favoring, see, in terms of marriage, if the Mahadasha is neutral, then the marriage could be possible. But if the Mahadasha is negative, then there is a doubt whether the marriage would happen or not. So Jupiter is not neutral because of its handshaking between the first and the say sixth house, and the eighth house is also kind of bad. It's a house of delay in terms of marriage and all that. So all these combinations are not very promising in terms of marriage. And that as a common sense also, now he would be, like I said, he would be entering into whatever 60th years of his age. So at a matter of common sense, The whole chapter around the marriage thing doesn't seem promising. So Rahu Dasha didn't giving marriage. Jupiter is not promising, and even if you look at the Saturn is also not very promising. So of course he is still unmarried. Now let's look at the career of a person when he was in US during the Rahu period, and he was traveling from one place to another place and working for all fortune companies and earning a fairly decent amount of money. So what happened when he entered into the Jupiter period, when the Rahu period was over around 2006? And then what happened for the unsettling career, or where a person doesn't have a fixity of purpose, or a person they work for few months here, few months there, and few months there, doesn't have a very long kind of a stint, or a long kind of a permanent a job. So there, the houses 3, 5, and 9, they play a very important role. So why 3, 5, and 9? Because from the 10th house, if you look from the 10th house, then the 6th house becomes the third house. The 8th house becomes the fifth house, and the ninth house becomes the 12th house. So 6, 8, and 12 houses are bad from certain houses. Now, this is not a universal principle in Krishnamurti Paddhati that 6, 8, and 9 are always bad from each of these houses. But at least in terms of business and all that, Krishnamurti has mentioned that these houses are not good, and they tend to create a very unsettling kind of a career for a person, where a person is not able to find a job, he's not able to settle into a career. So when this person's Rahu Dasha ended and he entered into a Jupiter period, immediately in Jupiter Saturn period, and he came back from US to India as soon as the Jupiter period started. And when he entered into the Jupiter Saturn period, from that point onwards, his whole career become kind of unsettling. There was no fixity, like I mentioned, some small consulting jobs, 3 months, 5 months as an independent consultant he did, but there was no a long term kind of a fixity of purpose. Now, if you look at Jupiter, so what Jupiter indicates is 5. What Jupiter indicates over here is 3. What Jupiter indicates over here is 9. So 3, 5, and 9, right? So these are the houses that creates some kind of a trouble in the career of a person. A person will not be able to find a long-term fixity. And when his Jupiter Dasha started, and Jupiter is already, there is already a handshaking between 3, 5, and 9. So that was not a good combination, and this is what actually happened in his life. And when he entered into the Jupiter Saturn period, from that point onwards, his whole career kind of came to a standstill, where every month he was calling people and trying to, or calling companies and trying to see if what he should be doing in his life. And I'm talking about a person who is very intelligent and has a good educational background, is very capable, but this is what happens. And if you look at Saturn also, Saturn also indicates, right? So Saturn also indicates the 359 combination. So from Jupiter Saturn period onwards, this person has not been able to settle himself into any long term career. So when you get the horoscope, and I'm sure you get these kind of queries, or you will be getting these kind of queries where people talk about that they are not being able to find a permanent or a long term proposition in terms of their career and all that, then this particular combination you have to look at 3, 5, and 9. And now with Jupiter period, like I mentioned, that and Jupiter period is going to get over in a couple of years. So the whole of Jupiter period, which is a pretty long period, the he has not been able to find a permanent position. If you look at the Saturn, and Saturn also, indicate the same thing. The, there is a handshaking between 5, 3, 9, and again 5 at the third lord level. So there is a definite, issue with this person, and you can safely predict if you get this kind of combination that there are going to be issues with the career or the job. Now this person met with an accident during Jupiter Venus period. So what are the combinations for accident? 1, 4, 8, and 12. Now if you look at Jupiter, Jupiter is already indicating 1 and 8. So one of the handshaking is already done. Now if you look at Venus, and I would draw your attention, the Venus in this horoscope is indicating a typical Krishnamurti's yoga, I would call a yoga, where Krishnamurti says if Lord of the Ascendant, here the Lord of Ascendant is Venus, and if it is indicating the 8th house, then it indicates danger. The first and the 8th house. The Lord of the Lagna or the Ascendant, the Venus, is in is a strong significator of the 8th house, and not only the 8th house, it's Mars, which is the natural significator for accident and all that. And then if you need a further confirmation, you have to look at the sublord. And Krishnamurti says that if Lord of the Ascendant signifies the 8th house, then there is a possibility of danger. But if the sublord confirms it, then it translates into a reality. So what is the bad house in terms of accident? That's the 12th house. So if you look at the Jupiter and Venus combination, so you find that Jupiter is already indicating 1 in 8 at the star level, which is a very strong handshaking. And Jupiter is also indicating the 4th house, 1 in 8, 1, 8, and then 4th. It's already indicating this. Saturn is also not deemed to be a good house, not deemed to be a good planet by its natural significance, because Saturn is a malefic. And then when Jupiter got its support from the Venus in terms of indicating, the 1 8, the 8 over here, and then the Mars over here, and the Mercury, which is the Lord of the 12th house. This is a short combination for accident, and this is what happened. This guy met with an accident, and during Jupiter Venus period. Now let's look at the finances. This is one of the questions that you will get as an astrologer, that how my finances are going to work. Will I be wealthy? Will I be rich? Will I be comfortable? Will I be okay? And those kind of things. Now the usual combinations in Krishnamurti Paddhati are that 2, 6, 10, 11. These houses, when they join hands, then they create an opportunity for a person to earn good money. And when the this particular combination is there, the 5, 6, 8, and 12, then there is always a pressure. The money is less. Not only the money is less, there is a pressure from the creditors to pay whatever, the mortgage or your bank interest, or those PMI or whatever, those kind of things are there. Now if you look at the sixth house, it appears, at both places, because the sixth house is a pendulum, a turncoat in Krishnamurti Paddhati. When it aligns with the good houses, it will give the good result. So when the sixth house aligns with 2, 10, 11, it always generates, good money. But when the sixth house uh, uh, does a handshaking with the bad houses 5, 8, and 12, then it changes its color, and then it's going to create a trouble in terms of finances and all that. Other houses like 1 and 3 are good. I mean, they help in generating some money, but those are kind of negligible, or the word that Krishnamurti has used is moderate. So they help in generating moderate money. And similarly, the 4 and 9 are not really good houses in Krishnamurti, and the pressure in terms of debt or loan, or in terms of the usually called as the money pressure, is there, but it is usually less. So 2, 6, 10, 11, good money. 5, 6, 8, 12 always indicate some problem. And if there is a combination of both, then they are not going to cancel out each other. Both things will happen. So that you have to keep in mind. So if you look at this person's horoscope, so during the Rahu period, he had these 10, 10, and this 6. 3 is also good. 3 is not bad. So these were some of the good combinations that during this period, and this was a pretty long period, when he was in US, and he was providing consulting service to all these fortune companies, and at that time he was able to earn good money. But if you look at the subsequent period after Rahu, the Jupiter, and now within a few years the Saturn, then you find that these combinations are missing. Not only this combination is missing, even this combination is missing. So what do you predict? You have to predict a very average period. Obviously the person would come to you thinking that he or she might be able to uh, run into some kind of a fortune in future. Okay, this is a usual human desire, but it's fine. But neither the Jupiter nor the Saturn, they don't promise anything. uh, if you look at the Saturn, here you find 10, but 10 is alone. It doesn't, it's not doing any handshaking with the these good houses. So you can safely say, I know about this person's Jupiter period, and that is what it has been. He is not into a debt. He doesn't have that kind of a pressure in terms of paying monthly mortgage, or in terms of paying his credit card bill. That kind of pressure is not there, but still he has this feeling that that the inflow of money is not there. He is not able to earn, or he is not able to add more money to whatever he has. Here, I will point out one important thing that you might want to note down. And this is in terms of the remedy. See, when a person is going through a bad period, they come to an astrologer, and they usually ask about what kind of gemstones to wear, and all those kind of stuff, puja and those kind of thing. This person was intelligent enough when during the Rahu period, that was a good period for him in terms of earning some decent money. So I'm pretty sure, though I have not talked to him, but by just by looking at the Jupiter and Saturn period, where it doesn't show a kind of a pressure in terms of money, in terms of paying monthly bills and all that, I'm pretty sure that whatever money he earned during the Rahu period, he was able to invest that money wisely. He was able to save that money for typically what is called as a rainy day. So this is one thing that as an astrologer you should recommend to people coming to you when they are going through a good period. People usually don't come to you when they are going through a good period, but still they might uh, be going through a good period in a near future. So this is one advice that you should give to those kind of people, that you are already running through a good period, or you are going to have a good period in whatever 1 year, 2 years, 3 years of time. And why don't you talk to your CPA or a financial planner, and whatever extra money you have, why don't you invest it, save it wisely, so that when you run into a hard period, then you don't have those issue of the money pressure and all those issue. So this is one of the chart where this is very clear that this person made money in the Rahu period, and this person is not able to make much money during the Jupiter Saturn period, but still the money pressure is not there. So this is a wise investment, rather than jumping to suggesting these yagya havan, stone ganda taviz and all that. It's not a good thing to do. And it's not that it doesn't work, but what I'm trying to say is that these wise counseling which an astrologer should do, uh, they play a significant role. So it's good to advise them that invest your money properly, and it's going to become handy. It's going to save you from too many disappointments in future. So that's all in this video. Hope you enjoyed watching it. Thanks for watching.